Good day, everyone. Welcome to our joint ACGC and ACC webinar entitled From Council to Strategists, Insights from Africa Legal Leaders on the Evolving CLO Role. For those who don't know me, my name is Cynthia Loren. I'm the co-founder of ACGC, and I'm delighted to have so many of you joining us from across both the continent of Africa and also outside of Africa. The objective of today's session really goes to the core of why we established ACGC. It's all about amplifying the voices, experiences and insights of African lawyers in a global context. We are thrilled to be running this session in partnership with the Association of Corporate Counsel. I'll shortly be handing over to the ACC team. They'll be moderating and running the session for us. But before I do that, just want to encourage people to be really present. So many times we join these discussions and we're very much in listening and observing mode. And although we have a highly esteemed panel who we'll introduce to you shortly to lead this discussion, the purpose of today is really about providing a platform for those of you that are undertaking these senior leadership roles in an in-house context to share your views and perspectives on what it really takes to make those roles a success, the challenges that you're facing and what you see in the years ahead. So please do engage in the discussion. There will be interaction in this session as well as the panel discussion. Ask your questions, share your thoughts, use the chat function, and please do share your details and let us know where you're from so that we can connect with you. It'd be great to connect with people on LinkedIn after this session. So we really want you to have an interactive and meaningful session today. So with all that said, I'm going to hand over to Tori Payne, who's the Vice President and Chief Global Membership Officer at ACC. Thank you, Tori.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm Tori Payne. I'm the Vice President and Chief Global Membership Officer at the Association of Corporate Counsel. We are the largest global in-house counsel bar association across the world. We have about 26% of our members that actually sit outside of North America. And we are very pleased that we were invited to join Cynthia and you today. And we are excited about this burgeoning partnership. I consider it a partnership with the ACGC. The ACC really focuses on providing education, information, and networks for all of our in-house counsel members all over the world. We advocate for attorney-client privilege, in addition to other issues that are very key for in-house counsel to be able to practice as full members of the bar. We are also very, very interested in continuing to build our network and our relationships and facilitating that for our members. So again, just really, really excited to be here with you today. As we begin the session, we will also be sharing a few ACC resources. Later on at the end of the call, we will be sharing a link for one of our corporate counsel newsletters. That a very popular a resource that we offer to all of our members and non-members all over the world. So if you'd like to stay connected with the ACC, you will have the opportunity to do so. And with that, I wanted to keep my comments very brief. I would love to turn it over to my team member, Blake Garcia, to get us started. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tori. Just give me 1 second as I share my screen with everyone. Great, so please let me know if you can't see it. But so I know that everyone is probably interested in listening to our panelists discuss the dynamic of the topic today, but I thought that it would be a good idea to share some of the survey background, which the discussion is going to be based on somewhat, and give everybody a sense of what's going on in legal departments right now, how the evolving role is shaping for CLOs. So if everyone isn't aware, I am the Senior Director of Research at ACC, and my team conducts an annual CLO survey. We've actually conducted this survey for 24 consecutive years, I think maybe save 1 or 2 years early on. It began in 1999, and every year we field the survey somewhere between September and November, and we publish those results in January. We typically receive around 800 to 1,200 respondents to that survey, every year, and it can receive as many respondents from up to 40 countries. So this year we received almost 900 CLOs that participated from 35 countries. And again, the purpose of the survey is really to try to have it as a vehicle to not just understand the evolving role of the CLO, but also all of the issues that are going on within the legal department and how the department is interacting with the rest of the business. And we've seen a lot of differences over the years. The survey itself has changed many times over the years because the environment surrounding the legal department changes. So we change it accordingly. So again, I know we're interested in listening to the panelists, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share 3 key themes that are coming out of this year's report and that we've seen trending over the past few years. There are over 50 survey questions on this particular survey. We could talk for a long time about all of the various insights that come out of this. And I believe that if our audience doesn't already have access to the full results, they will shortly after this. So, and I'm sure that many of you, given your experience, will see some of the results and see your own insights. But in the report itself, we've provided a listing of 10 that we think are the most important given our understanding. And I'm just going to go through about 3 of those that will serve to kind of give a little bit of the foundation for the discussion later on. So the first key theme that we see and that we've been seeing for quite a bit of time now, highly generalized, but we see that CLOs are achieving much greater influence in their organizations. And we have many results that indicate that. I'm just going to go through a few here. But it's not just chief legal officers. It is the legal department in general. Overall, we're generalizing, but overall, we're seeing much greater influence. As I think most people are quite aware, historically, the legal department has been quite independent from the business, and we can debate about whether that's a good or a bad thing. There are many implications to that, but what we see is that it's becoming much more integrated. And so one indication and one thing that we capture every year is whether or not the CLO reports directly to the chief executive officer. And we see that as a sign that if they are, then they are more highly valued, and therefore the legal department will get more say. They will be seen, they will be taken more seriously. And so we've asked this in a variety of forms for many years, but most consistently starting in 2018. And you can see in the sort of middle red line there, that's the all CLOs, all 892. And so you can see that it started off at 64% globally, and now it's 77% globally. And there is a little bit of an up and down change, but by and large, it is a pretty significant number of CLOs that report directly to the CEO. You can see that in the United States, which the bulk of our survey respondents do come from, it is a little bit higher, and outside of the United States, it's a little bit lower. But by and large, it is an upward trajectory, we think. Another thing that we capture is to what extent certain business functions are reporting up to the CLO or the legal department. And this is a pretty general question. It doesn't get into specifics, but what this shows is a listing of a wide variety of corporate functions. And the percentages are what percentage of the companies that we've surveyed here have those departments reporting up to legal or to the CLO. And I think, the key players, of course, are always compliance, ethics and risk, and usually government affairs. We don't make the distinction as to whether it is a separate business function or whether it is an activity that is engaged in by the legal department, right? Or does it so because in many small departments, for example, right, they don't have necessarily an internal audit business department or a procurement department or a government affairs or ESG department. Those are activities that some other department has to engage in or have somebody manage. And so what we actually find is that many small departments wear many more hats than departments in very large companies because they sort of have to. And but the bigger point from this result is that these percentages have increased slowly over time. So what we're really seeing is a greater amount of management responsibilities for the legal department over time in general. So legal departments are now very much overseeing privacy, and that 51% has increased just in the past year by 4 percentage points. Risk has increased by 4 percentage points. Cybersecurity response, which was almost non-existent before, that was entirely within IT. Now 20% of departments are entirely overseeing cybersecurity response, and that's also an increase over last year. And overall, there's been an increase. Now, we can also debate whether it's a good or a bad thing that legal is sort of having to take on so much responsibility, but again, we think that it's a sign that the broader business is valuing the expertise of legal and seeing more things as legal issues. And so therefore they're asking legal to have some sort of say or oversight over those areas. And then we also ask a number of questions. I've just picked 3 here, and the rest can be seen in the full report. But we list out several kind of scenarios or situations, and then we ask kind of the frequency with which CLOs are engaging in those things. And so you can see the listing here on the left-hand side. When your organization holds a board meeting, for example, how often do you attend? How often are you meeting with business leaders to discuss operational risk issues? How often does the leadership team seek your input on business decisions? We think these are all extremely important things to sort of demonstrate one's value with the organization or be seen as valuable. And yes, there is some up and down to the trend here, but by and large, there is a slight positive increase over time. We see that as being a sign that the legal department is being seen as more valuable to the business. The second key theme that we find, and this may be obvious to everyone here, but the data is really bearing it out, and that is that data privacy is becoming a top business concern. You know, once 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when data was not exactly seen as an asset like it is today, I mean, data was contained on paper, right, for many organizations. And so one would have to break into the organization and steal all the paper, and then what would you do with that, right? So now, because everything is digital, it's obviously becoming a key concern. And data privacy was not even on our survey, say 5 or 7 years ago. So it's so important that we had to add it, and now it's becoming a top concern. So we ask a sequence of questions here about a variety of issues to the business. So one of them is we ask CLOs to actually rank the listing of issues here in terms of how important they are to the overall business, with 10 being extremely important. And the top 3 there are cybersecurity, regulation and compliance, and data privacy. And so cybersecurity and data privacy, they were once sort of farther down the list and non-existent, and now they're at the top, and they're consistently at the top. And we're pretty broad when we say regulation and compliance. That could mean data privacy, right, regulation. And so we also ask about the biggest legal challenges to one's organization according to the CLO. And so the top 2 listed there are industry-specific regulations and data protection and privacy rules. And the data protection privacy rules has increased over time. You can see just from last year, there's been a 4 percentage point increase in people considering that to be a very large legal challenge for them. And third, we also ask, what is one area that you think will require the most additional resources over the next year? And the number 1 is significant transactions, things like mergers and acquisitions. And number 2 is data privacy and protection. And we can see that data privacy and protection, again, has increased by 4 percentage points just since last year, but it's also increased over time since then. And during COVID, the significant transactions option here shot way up to the top because of the economic implications and supply chain implications. Of course, there were lots of sell-offs and mergers, and so that was number 1. And then we can see as we're coming out of that, there's been a 5 percentage point drop. And then third, this is no surprise to anyone here, but we do see the data bear it out that the pressure to reduce costs and demonstrate value within legal continues. And I think that almost every legal department feels this to some extent. And that's not to say that every other business function doesn't feel it as well. They do, but I think that the legal department feels it a little bit more acutely than some other departments. And that is probably because it is typically a large cost center, that is true, but it doesn't also have a direct way to demonstrate its value like others. Of course, it can't say that it directly generates revenue in most cases. So it has to figure out how can we show that we are valuable to the business and that we're worth the cost that we are incurring for the business. And so one major question that we ask each year is for CLOs to tell us what the top 3 most strategic initiatives are in their department. And by far, this year and frankly, last year and the year before, was legal operations, followed by the right sourcing of legal services. And what we mean by that is, whether or not something should be outsourced or insourced sort of appropriately, and then cost minimization. And these 3 things are very much at the heart of trying to demonstrate value to the business, trying to show that they can operate efficiently. And then we also ask what actions CLOs are taking to improve client satisfaction, internal client satisfaction, and this is open-ended, but we have analyzed all of those open-ended responses and found the appropriate groupings. And so what we see is people are very much trying to streamline processes and take their costs under control, but they're also seeking feedback and reviews through client satisfaction surveys. And there's also quite a bit of training and networking that they're trying to instill within their staff. So again, another clear indication that internally they're trying to make sure that they are seen as a business unit that is contributing and that is easy to work with. So there are many other findings here that we could go through, but I just wanted to make sure that we set the stage for the discussion. So just again, I run ACC's research department and business intelligence department. And if there are any questions about the data, we also run many other surveys. We have many other data-driven insights. If anyone has any questions or would like to learn more, please feel free to reach out to research@acc.com, and we'd be happy to answer all of your questions. So what I'm going to do now is just hand it over to Tori to introduce our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Blake. And thank you and welcome again to our panelists today. We're going to pick up on some of the themes that Blake discussed as part of his presentation. And I want to make sure that I don't mispronounce any of our distinguished names. So I'm going to welcome our panelists, and I'm going to actually have them introduce themselves. So David, Ozim, Abidemi, and Olivier, please welcome to the seminar today. And then I will turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Tori, and greetings, everybody. My name is David Bamlango, Deputy Group MD and General Counsel of TDB. TDB is the long name of the organization is Eastern and Southern African Trade and Development Bank. We are a development bank, as the name suggests. We are a creature of treaty. We are an international organization. We are a multilateral bank. We have been around since 1985. We operate in 24 African countries, in Eastern Africa, in Southern Africa, and in West Africa. Most recently, having added Ghana and Senegal among our stable of member states, in addition to the traditional Eastern and Southern African countries. We are a lender. We lend to finance trade, and we also finance infrastructure and other corporate lending to corporate borrowers across the region. We also lend directly to sovereigns. And we, in addition, have created several subsidiaries to complement our group organization, a captive insurance company, a trade fund based out of Mauritius, and a trade management company, a fund management company also out of Mauritius, and another subsidiary that does lending under concessional term, which is a trade development fund, TDF. And we operate out of Nairobi as our operation hub, though our headquarters are in Bujumbura and in Mauritius. as general counsel. So I oversee the legal function. I am the chief legal officer of the organization and advise senior management and advise the board and the board of governors, the board of directors on all legal issues, regulatory issues, and other legal risk related issues, which can be quite varied, as we will say some more on this later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. That was a very comprehensive introduction. And since you told us so much about your legal department, as we run through the panelists of introductions, why don't you add, what are some of the key concerns that keep you up at night, David, before we move on to our next distinguished panelist?
Thank you, Tori. What keeps me up at night in my role is emerging issues in our industry of international banks, international financial institutions. Two main ones. One is the heightened sanction and regulatory global environment in which we are operating. As a development bank that provides trade finance, we are very sensitive to the regime of sanctions that various countries or blocks of countries are imposing to regulate how their citizens or people connected to their territory are interacting with certain actors around the world or certain products around the world. And as a development bank, as a trade finance bank, the heightened sanction environment as the US, the EU and Japan, Canada and China and different countries issue their own suite of sanctions that has heightened the risks within which we are trying to operate in carrying out our day-to-day business. So the heightened regulatory environment that's specific to our industry, and namely sanction, is one that keeps me up at night, just to make sure that we are compliant, that we are delivering on our mandate to our member state while ensuring that we comply with those rules and standards that apply to us or to our clients. Another key area of concern for me is cybersecurity and data privacy management. These are areas which are becoming more and more of concern to us in the region. Apologies, Tori, there was some noise coming on my side here. I'm not sure if you heard that.
No way.
Yeah, so these are issues, cybersecurity and data privacy, which are becoming of grave concern to us as an international organization, but also to our member states, as more and more African countries are passing regulation to regulate this area. And we, as a lender who deals with lenders and investors from around the world, who have this as one of their key concerns, we're having to make sure that we are compliant, that we are on top of our game in ensuring that we are secure in our systems, in our technologies, and in how we manage privacy sensitive information that we receive as part of our KYC or just our employee information and the likes. So ensuring compliance with our own requirements and those of our member state and those of our partners from across the globe is a key concern of ours, and it's driving a lot of our investment, of our strategy in what we do within the legal department. I will pause there for now.
Thank you, David. Many of the concerns that you shared are actually echoed in our Chief Legal Officer survey. Abidemi, would you please take the same question, introduce yourself, tell us about your legal department and what keeps you up at night?
All right, thank you, Tori. Hello, everyone. My name is Abidemi Ademola. I'm General Counsel, West Africa, and recently also became Executive Director at Unilever Nigeria PLC. So Unilever is a fast-moving consumer goods company, and we recently celebrated 100 years in Nigeria. The company our purpose is really to make sustainable living commonplace, and we manufacture goods that enable people to feel good, look good, and get more out of life. My work as GC West Africa and Executive Director at Unilever entails, oversight for legal and governance matters across Unilever within the West African region. So I supervise legal teams that are in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Francophone West Africa. And then what keeps me awake at night, key concerns in the role, they're around really first finding the right talent with not just the technical legal skills that are required, but those with commercial and business acumen to effectively partner various functions and teams across the organization. So that is very important to me because, you have a tendency to find lawyers who are technically sound, but do they have the business acumen that is required to be able to effectively partner, business teams across the organization? And then the second thing that keeps me awake is how to effectively balance increasing legal costs, with shrinking legal budgets. So obviously, because there's pressure across, the economies in which I supervise, there's always, what can we do with these legal costs? It's either we cannot increase it or even we're finding savings. So how can we get, better value from the legal budgets that we have? That's something that keeps me awake. And then finally is around, and I think David alluded to that, around, keeping abreast of changing, ever-changing legal and regulatory landscape so that we can effectively mitigate legal risks to business operations and to the teams that we partner across. So those would be the three key things that keep me awake. Thank you.
Thank you.
And back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ozim, same question.
Sure. Thanks, Terry, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Ozim Ibesiako. I have another name, but let's just keep it short. Ozim Ibesiako. I'm the Executive General Counsel for GE Vernova in SSA, where it used to be GE Power, and GE Power is still part of the businesses under GE Vernova. So we recently rebranded as GE Vernova, and the businesses under GE Vernova, we have the power business where you've got the gas power, hydro business, nuclear steam power, and of course the wind, onshore wind, electrification, the grid solutions, digital, and accessories also involved in the energy financial services team. So it's a broad base of over like other 12 P&Ls under the broad Vernova business. So I'm in charge of the legal team in SSA as Sub-Saharan Africa, several things from beneath Niger down. North Africa is part of Middle East in the way we are structured in GE. So Sub-Saharan Africa is under me. And that would group us into countries, the English speaking, the French speaking, the Portuguese speaking. And we've also resourced our legal team accordingly in those sub-regions. So I oversee that team. Working in SSA for the past 13 years in different roles in GE, exposed me to some of the things that now keep me up at night, that if I were just working in one country, I'll be dealing with, say, in Nigeria or in Ghana, for instance. But with presence in over 23 countries in Africa, and we constantly have to educate our international partners that Africa is not a country. There are so many countries within Africa, and each regime differs. So I started by mentioning the 4 sub-regions where we operate: the English, the French speaking, and the Portuguese speaking. Of course, you have our Spanish brothers in Equatorial Guinea, etc., but they are not as big as these other ones. And as they also differ, the language, the legal systems differ. So you're straddling between common law, civil, and finding law firms. What worries me more operating in SSA, of course, we can't have lawyers in the 23 countries where we do business. So we have to create hubs that will service the countries within each hub. And we rely a lot on external law firms, especially for the court representation, etc. So in the English speaking and some French speaking and a few, it's easy, but also finding law firms that can serve us across these 23 countries is usually a challenge, right? And to what Abidem mentioned earlier, it's not just finding the law firm, it's also finding firms that understand what your business does or are able to get into your mind to, provide the solution you are looking for. And that also is very important to us when we also think of resourcing our legal team. Another thing that worries me in the region is the legal system, ever-changing legal regime. And the fact that you did something in a particular way last year doesn't mean it will be the same way this year. So it's ever-changing. The laws are not clear and subject to interpretation. And when lawyers are open to a subject to interpretation scenario, it doesn't also help the business because the business wants solution, not you saying, well, if the law is saying this, then this. So we will appreciate a bit more clarity in our legal regime. And another point that also worries our business, especially for commercial transactions, is access to justice, right? It's almost a deal breaker for us if we don't have alternative dispute resolution clauses in our contract, because you really don't want to subject yourself to certain legal systems in the region, especially when time is money. I'll pause here because I know there'll be more opportunities to talk on those issues. So happy to be here once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abidemi. And a lot of the issues you mentioned reminds me of the power of a network, right? And you're operating in 23 countries. The people on this call may be operating in multiple countries as well. So leverage your network. Make sure you all are sharing the good law firms and the good lawyers that you're working with in these jurisdictions who understand the concerns in your business. So that's why we hope you're choosing organizations like ACGC as well as ACC as well to continue to build that network. Olivier, please, next question. What keeps you up at night?
Thanks, Tori. Good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to be here in this discussion. My name is Olivier Poulon. I'm the CEO of the African Legal Support Facility. The ALSF is an international organization also created by treaty in 2008, and its mandate is to, the motto says, establish sustainable legal capacity on the continent through advisory services provided to African governments and capacity building provided to African lawyers and African government legal officials. That's in a nutshell what the mandate is. But as you can imagine, there's much more to it, and I'll be happy to respond to any questions in that regard. I'm a corporate lawyer by training and by profession for the beginning of my career for good couple of years. I was in practice in Europe, in France specifically. Then I transitioned to in-house. I trained in project finance, and then to grow as in-house senior legal counsel in a project finance development institution. And then moved back to the continent, specifically in Ghana, then South Africa and Kenya as a telecoms lawyer. So I was, before joining the LSF a year and a half ago, I was the GC for Airtel Africa. I had a stint of about 11 years in telecom. My current role has taken me a bit away from the concerns of the colleagues on the call today, but I do share some of the. I still do share some of the concerns, and there are things that do keep us awake at night. And one thing that particularly concerns me for the colleagues on the call is, there's a strong paradox between the growing role and growing influence of GCs and the shrinking budget, or the need to continue working in a constrained environment, from a budget perspective. I think that is an equation that we need to crack, because we can't see our influence growing, day after day, while continue being constrained constantly constrained from a budget perspective. So if I share a concern with the colleagues on the call, it's that one is a strong concern for me. Specifically in terms of the LSF, my key concern is number one to the financial sustainability of my institution, my organization. We are grant financed, and we extend grants to governments for the legal support they receive, with a small portion of what we do, which is against a charge or a fee. So I have a strong equation in terms of resource mobilization, and that really keeps me not only awake at night but busy during the day. And one other concern is, like the other colleagues, to retain and attract talent. The pool of young lawyers, committed, dedicated, with a passion for Africa, is there, but sometimes they hide. So you need to find them, groom them, and make sure that they share your passion. Make sure that they share the sense of commitment and dedication, and that is something that as a GC previously, as CEO now, I try to spend a lot of time in learning to do that better, because retaining and attracting talent is really the key to the sustainability of our profession and the improvement of our profession.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivier. We're going to pick up on some of the themes that you all mentioned related to reducing cost and the mounting pressure to reduce costs. But before we do that, we thought it would be interesting to poll the audience to see if their concerns match some of the concerns that our panelists have shared. So excellent. So if for those of you wouldn't mind just quickly taking the poll, our audience. And Nick, you can let me know how it's going. Are we ready to close the poll? Okay, so the economy, regulatory issues, and talent management so far. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So not dissimilar to some of the issues and concerns that our panelists raised today. So I want to pick up on the issue of managing costs in the legal department. As many of you mentioned, particularly Abidemi talked a lot about the pressure to reduce costs and demonstrate greater value. Our Chief Legal Officer survey mentioned that 70% mentioned that a strategic priority is for legal departments to invest in legal operations, over the next couple of years. So I wanted to ask you, David, you mentioned earlier, sort of, is your department facing these pressures? And if so, what are some of the solutions and other items you've implemented to address it?
Yeah, thank you, Tori. That's a great question. Yes, we are facing those pressures like the survey suggests. Because of that, just about 4 or more years ago, I hired the very first operation manager for our legal department to come in and provide leadership to my strategy around operations. And again, the concept of operations for me is really driven by the need to improve efficiencies across the organization, across the legal department, throughout how we support the business functions and the governance of the organization. It's about managing cost It's about doing more with less, and building the operation function was critical to delivering on those strategic goals. So building that function and allowing it to carry out the mandate has been really the core of what I've been doing over the last several years now in the legal department. So first it was to motivate for the hiring, so you can get the budget to hire the person and at the right level of responsibility in the organization. And then hiring the person to find the right person. As some of you will know, legal operation is kind of a newish area. So it's not always evident that you can go to market with a legal ops job description and find someone, straight from that background. You have to decide whether you're going to hire a lawyer or a non-lawyer to carry out the functions of legal operations. Do you want a project management expert, as I felt I needed, and just somebody who was an expert in efficiencies and procedures. So I was lucky to get a very strong person from the consultancy organization, from one of the big fours, as opposed to going for a lawyer to come and do this. And we embarked on a well-planned kind of 4 or 5 year plan on improving our strategy, our efficiency. So that involved deploying a legal management tool and several other technology solutions, including an e-billing solution to streamline how we get our invoices, how we screen them against our billing guidelines, and how we track the processing of the invoices so that our finance teams are not worried about the accruals, and we have visibility into the billing from the time that the lawyers are entering their time on the law firm side. So putting in place the legal tool, the legal management, matter management solution, the e-billing solution, and some other smaller tools like just a proper document comparison tool, because as a bank, we do a lot of document drafting, document reviewing. So just deploying simple tools like that would bring a lot of efficiency in how the lawyers work, and has really changed how they carry out their functions on a day-to-day basis. And hiring paralegals to come and supplement the work of the lawyers so they can have time to spend doing deeper legal work, and we can improve and professionalize the process part of closing transactions and running checklists and running basic due diligence works beyond what that does not require a lot of legal expertise, and reduces the result how much we send outside to the law firms, and just as another way of keeping an eye on this. So yes, legal ops and technology deployment has been a core part of this, and management of cost and managing legal spend through a robust panel of law firms across all the markets where we function, and managing them, running the selection, negotiating rate, putting in place umbrella agreement with every law firm with the discounted rates, fighting hard for those discounts to be kept in place for several years to avoid the annual spikes that law firms like to build into their rates. So just keeping an eye on operations from the technology side and the legal spend side has been indeed a core of what we've been doing. We are in the midst of deploying right now our contract building solution, which will streamline how we draft contract internally and how we review externally generated contracts, and trying to embed AI solutions in this tool as well. So yes, it takes up a lot of my time, this whole legal operation space. Yeah.
It sounds like you got it figured out, David. You've implemented a lot of really great solutions to help reduce spending and better manage cost. Abidemi, I wanted to know if you had any additional solutions to add, because I know you discussed it as part of your opening that it was a big challenge for you working with smaller budgets and delivering greater value. So do you have anything to add to David's comments?
Absolutely. So I think David sets the context really very well. Being part of a multinational organization, we've latched onto deployment of various tools to help us, automate routine, non-strategic work so that our lawyers can focus on, more value adding responsibilities, and we can spend less on legal fees. So the first one was a contract management tool, Smarter Contracting. We had been using that for almost over 5 years. I'm very sure of that, where, routine contracts are just built up by our business partners. They just put in their information, the templates are there, and that's it. And then secondly, we also did one regionally, which was a document management project, whereby, we tried to automate our document management system, because we found out that definitely a lot of the claims and legal matters that we have borders on, how you can be successful, borders on how much documentation you have. So while we've had document retention, procedures, document management policies, we needed a tool to help us, really store those documents in a way that they're easily accessible and we can use them as when needed. Another tool that we had deployed had to do with a compliance project. This also was done across West Africa. And what we tried to do was to capture all the laws and regulations that were applicable to the various parts of our organizations, and to make sure to put different people who were in charge of those compliance, because most of the time, some of like factory compliance matters, for instance, we are not going to be the ones to comply. It would be maybe the factory manager or somebody who is on the factory floor. So we put their names, and the tool can actually prompt them to let them know when they need to comply and what they need to do. And then the last one was Pursuit, and I'm sure that Cynthia will be very happy with this. This was a global deployment as well, and it's an automated billing system whereby you can actually have your external counsel bid for legal work, and you can see the bids. They can also see to an extent what's been, and through that, we've been able to have excellent savings on legal costs. So I think it goes on and on. There are many opportunities for us to be able to leverage technology to be able to address these concerns around legal budgets. And those are the ones we've deployed so far. I'm sure there's still many more, and we're looking to really latch onto them as they come through.
Excellent, thank you. So we've heard, document management, contract management, e-billing solutions, working with, the Big Four, negotiating discounted rates and locking in rates with your various law firms, all really great strategies for helping to, manage legal spend. Ozim or Olivier, do you have anything unique that hasn't been mentioned yet that you're also implementing in your department that you'd like to add?
Well, I just want, okay, sorry, I just want, David and Abidemi have said quite a lot. I just want to add that for us, in terms of when you're being hired, of course, it's an in-house role. You're expected to be a generalist, but we also are trained to function as a law firm within the company. So we don't send legal work out, except those that absolutely have to go. So our law firm feel underutilized. So we apologize ahead of time when we're engaging them, because it may not come up regularly. So the only thing that goes to law firm are things we can handle internally. And that's mainly like dispute resolution. Or if we're going into a new market and we need advice on the legal regime. So we may not talk to our law firms more than twice in a year. They don't love us because of that, but that's the reality of our world, because we're hired, our contract never goes out. Negotiation doesn't go out, things like that. So we operate like a law firm within the company. So and we learn our business as also to become like a business lawyer. So that's one way we have kind of, sending stuff out to law firms.
That's great job security and a great way to demonstrate value, right? Olivier, anything unique to add on this question?
No, I think that the colleagues have said it all. I think the whole range of instruments or tools that we can, or strategies that we can use to to reduce costs, because what appears is that not only are legal departments constrained by cost, but the little cost that they, or expenses that they have to make for, to hire legal counsel for litigation, for instance, even those have to be, sort of minimized, and and there's an admin part of, so in-housing as much of the work as possible is what we also did at Airtel. We only use external counsel. We use them only for litigation and some few legal opinions in a year. But also, as Ozim said, we tried as much as possible to be a law firm and to function as a law firm, even in our relationship with external counsel. So costs are minimized by virtue of the in-house team being so on top of the issues that the time spent by the external counsel is optimized or minimized. So there's an admin part of it, in terms of the following up on the time spent and checking invoices and the like. But essentially, it's about the legal team, the legal in-house team, being on top of the matter, so that there's no waste, if I can put it that way, of time spent by the external counsels on the matters that they handle.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. So I do want to remind the audience that we will be taking questions of our panelists at the end of the session, but feel free to type in your question and then we will address it at the end. But I want to pick up and sort of move on to another theme that came out of the Chief Legal Officer survey. Many of our CLOs are attempting to streamline legal processes and conduct satisfaction surveys, and they offer more team building and professional development opportunities. And this is all to really improve internal client satisfaction. So again, some of the themes that came out of the survey to improve client satisfaction were streamlining processes, conducting satisfaction surveys, and offer more team building and professional development opportunities. So I wanted to ask Ozim, if this is something that you are prioritizing in your legal department, and if so, if you could share with our audience some of the tactics that you're employing.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So just in a nutshell, it's more like for us to understand who we are working for. Just like the salespeople in a company will focus on the external customers, we see our internal stakeholders as our own customers. And what I charge my team is our success is a reflection of the success of our internal customers. So we need to understand what they do. We're there as lawyers, but you're not there to give them legalese. You're there to give them solution for what they need. And we serve different functions, whether the salespeople going out there to sell the gas turbines, or the HR department managing employees, or the financial or finance team, etc. So we have to sit with them to understand what they do. And part of our learning, besides the individual, like personally, I have a buddy in each function. So I'll go to the engineers, I say, please. So I have like a buddy in the engineering team, sales, finance, and we catch up regularly. And the first, like I said, I moved from business to business within GE. So when I got a new product, I just call an engineer, please explain to me, like you would to your 5-year-old, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Break it down. What worries you most about this equipment? And when I'm asking that question, my mind is going to my warranties, etc., because it will differ depending on the product. So the key priority for us is to understand who we are working for, what is important to them, so that's the only way you'll be a strong business partner. Then regularly touch base with them and create like a learning. So we have what we've also named Knowledgepedia. We borrowed that from Encyclopedia, just more like to boost our knowledge. We will have like monthly catch-ups with our function just to learn new topics, whether it's legal, commercial, finance, products, engineering, anything at all. And that way, everybody sees that everybody's prioritizing what they're doing. Then every year we have our team offsites, whether it's once or twice or quarterly, depending on who is having those offsites. We think of like a lean way of doing things, simplification. How do you make things faster? How do you make it better without reducing quality? We met up recently in Nairobi for my own legal team summit. And part of the task, we had a pre-work before the final summit, was how we a pulse check of our team to assess us, how we are serving them. And for us to also pulse check on how they are letting us serve them. Because just like you're serving your legal department, you don't just have one internal customer, but everybody will come to you when they need you. And they may all come at the same time. And everybody's work is important. So we've also had to like train our internal customers to say, listen, don't wait till you need something a week to come. Check with us from time to time. It wasn't working. So we had to like find a solution for ourselves, because you give a suggestion. If it's not working, you find a solution. So we plug it in their calendar beginning of the month. And the whole essence of that 30 minutes, what is your priority this month? And we make it clear, if you don't give us your priority and you come at the last week, we'll help you miss that deal. It's as simple as that, because we'll prioritize those that engaged us earlier. So like going back to the summit we had, so we had like a 3-week pre-work, 2 hours every week, just to give ourselves continuous feedback. How are we serving you? How are you serving us? See where we want you to do better, see where you want us to do better. So at the end of the day, we all kind of committed to different works ethics. And that alone, to be honest, if we adhere to that, we've seen a lot of improvement. It will also help your own reactionary time. So you're not reactionary, you're proactive. And it's also a function of how you want to be reflected. Legal departments, I don't know about other organizations, but from what the survey says, are priced functions. I don't know if there was ever a time you just come to them for administrative work. Now you're the business partner, and they go to market and say, oh, my lawyers told me. And that is all the cover they need. You know, they want to do something, they're not sure, what do you think? They're not asking what, and once you tell them, yes, you can do this, they march on. And you can't tell them, yes, you can do it if you haven't done your own homework, or if you haven't understood what it is they're trying to solve, right? So we always start with, what are you trying to solve? Then we work backwards. And will only get better with constant engagement with your internal stakeholders. That one is our key priority. Stay close to them. Thank you.
I love that, Ozim. You make it sound so easy.
No, it's not, you know, but then with time, when you win their confidence and they also know you genuinely, like the last exercise we had, we're not sure how they were going to take it, because we didn't want a situation where the team will feel, oh, the legal department has come to tell you where you are not doing well. No. So we're like, this is a feedback session, you know, truth telling. Where are we missing it? Where are you? How can we get better as a region? So with that at the back of everybody's mind, you know, it was really the most rewarding 3-week, 2-hour workout out there. And we had a good, you know, action item to work on, you know. But it's fun.
I think that, you know, relationships do matter, and you want you want your business units to actually talk to you in advance of a problem, so you can help mitigate risk and be partners with them. And the way that you expressed it and the tactics that you employed, actually sound brilliant. I love the concept of a buddy in the various business functions too, so that, you know, they feel like you're a trusted business partner. So really great, I think, solutions for our audience here today. Does anyone have anything unique that they'd like to add to what Ozim stated in terms of how she's improving client satisfaction? She's a tough act to follow. So I'll start, Olivier, let's go to you. If you have anything to add to that, that would be wonderful.
Well, no, again, that my role today is slightly different.
Right.
But I do measure the you know, the difficulty in assessing or demonstrating the value that sound legal advice brings. You see let me use the environment I'm in now. One thing, for instance, that our clients, governments, don't necessarily measure is how sound legal advice enables investment to flow in, right? I think there's the short sight is to see that what sound legal advice does is simply to enable a contract to be signed, right? So yes, the contract is signed, but what that means, at the end of the day, is that private sector will invest, private sector will develop, and that precedent that's been set will attract more. So that value, because what we deliver is soft. We're not, as my brother David, we don't provide cash. When you provide cash, people value the cash that you provide. When you provide soft, people think that the soft comes for granted, and I believe it's the same in corporation, and that's why I believe these forums that we have and these discussions that we have to understand how to better position the GC role and the legal department role. I think it's key, and we're doing it ourselves because nobody else is going to help us position ourselves in the right manner. It's difficult to explain to people the value that legal brings. So we need to find the right tools to do it. When I was still at Airtel, I established, same as David, I established a legal operations function, which started to monitor and evaluate the productivity of our work. Same as the colleagues, we put in place a contract management tool to sort of establish our way of doing business on paper to avoid duplication of work, etc. So yes, I'll stop there, but I do share the concerns, and I still very much appreciate the difficulty of establishing in the eyes of CEOs or decision makers that legal is gold.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so Tori,
yes, please, Abidemi.
yeah, Tori, if I may, is to say, it's been insightful just listening to Ozim and Olivier. And in addition, what we've also done is to create like a scorecard, all right, for legal, which we, share. It's on a monthly basis that we share with the business leaders, just to show, where we're at, what we're dealing with, and then we have a governance meeting that we have on a monthly basis as well. So this happens on a West Africa level and at the local country level, where we deep dive on legal matters. We get the help we need, because we will put in our presentation support required from the various businesses. We also structure our legal departments. The approach we've taken to our structure is business partnering. So you have somebody who partners, maybe supply chain, somebody who partners finance, HR. And so they know that this is our go-to person in legal. And these people actually almost become part of those teams in a sense. We've seen them, put them on the leadership team of the various functions, because they see that they're adding value to them. And obviously we get feedback from time to time to just ask them, what else would you like to see? And I think most importantly is to tell them that we're partners in this. We want you to achieve the business objectives. We just want you to do it in a compliant manner. And, as they see us demonstrate that, the confidence grows, and they call us so very early in the day. They don't wait till there's a fire to fight. Right. At the time of conceptualizing what they want to do, they start to get inputs from us. And I think that has been a very, very rewarding for us. And we just want to continue to pursue that approach.
Wow, that's excellent, Abidemi. I appreciate you adding. And did you say the scorecard was monthly?
Yes, on a monthly basis, we populate and we put new information in there. And then we put also support that we require from, the business to help us in addressing some of those scorecard results that we were showing. Yeah,
that's excellent. Excellent. David, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, thank you. Great insight, Ozim and Bidemi and Olivier. Clearly, I'm picking up some tips myself here. Some of the things that we do at our legal department here are driven by the fact that the whole organization has adopted a balanced scorecard approach to our performance management, and our compensation is linked to that. And that really means our balanced scorecards as a department, and mine as the chief legal officer, does include the element of client satisfaction. So we do run 2 surveys per year across the whole organization to just take the pulse and get feedback from our client and how we're doing. And the result of the second one of those surveys determines our bonuses, actually. So if they are not happy and we get a bad result, our bonus will be small. If the feedback on the survey is good, that will impact our compensation. So client satisfaction is core to us. It's core to what we do. And the whole team gets it. The entire team gets it because it becomes a pocketbook for everyone to make sure our clients are happy. So we do everything we can to make sure that this is done in a manner that does not jeopardize our professional duty, our duty to provide sound legal advice without undue pressure. So to help us deliver on those sometimes competing demands, we use training a great deal on both ends. We train our clients on legal issues. So we initiated what has now become an organization-wide culture of brown bag lunches on various topics. We have almost every month, every couple of months, we have brown bag lunch training sessions on legal issues, but broken down for business people. Because one of the reason for bad feedback that lawyers tend to get from clients is that the clients don't understand what the lawyer is doing. The client have no idea how hard the lawyer is working. They don't understand the complexity of the issues the lawyers are dealing with. They think a demand can be made today and the answer will come the next half hour.
Right.
When in fact, it may require some real research, may require some reading, may require some calling a few colleagues and maybe going to the ACC resource website and get some resources from other GCs, from other lawyers, and so forth. So getting the business folks to understand what are the legal issues? How do you do it? How do you address the legal issues? Pick your topic. And we hold regular training on this for our business folks. They love it because they feel like they're becoming half lawyers after these sessions. They give us, as part of the survey or just outside, they tell us what topic they want to hear about the next. They're like, we want to get training on this, I get training on that. And for this, we do some of these trainings internally, but many times we rely on our panel law firms to offer this training free of charge. They have time, they have the resources, they are experts, and they love to do it for free, just as a goodie for being on our panel. And we love tapping them on that. And of course, they are showcasing their expertise in the process. So this has been a very successful way of getting our client to understand our view, our perspective, and just be better users of legal services. Because a client who is educated in how to consume legal services is a good client. is actually the client I want to have. Now, they are not lawyers, so I have to educate them on how to consume legal services, on what it takes, what kind of question to ask, or what are the lawyers doing when they close their doors and put the blinds on and just want to be quiet, reading up. What are they doing? Are they just watching video games? No. They are analyzing your issues. So we want them to appreciate that. And of course, the other leg of the training strategy, we train our lawyers in being business partners, because not all lawyers come out of law school or out of law firms with an understanding of the need to be a business partner. We've all used those terms. It's because they are central to what it means to be in-house lawyer today. So we train our lawyers in how to be business partners. I love what Ozim does with the buddies in the various departments. That's a great trick. We are planning a formal secondment program where we will be sending our lawyers seconded to business units to work there for several months, not as a lawyer, but as a business person, just to work with them, spend 3 months, 6 months in the coverage team, or in the lending operation team, portfolio management team, or you name it, or HR. Go spend there 3 months, go live there for 3 months, for 6 months, and then come back to the legal department, and you will get a different perspective on that. So, and sending our people to training on business acumen. We love the MBA for Lawyers program that the ACC organizes. We've sent our lawyers to attend the MBA for Lawyers kind of training. It's a wonderful training just to teach lawyers how to read the financial statements, not to be scared of a calculator, or to run a number, to understand how, when people talk about ratios and so forth, we are a bank, so we hear ratios all the time. We want lawyers to understand those concepts and be able to communicate at the same level with our business clients, because we want to be partners. We want our lawyers to understand the fine skills of being an advisor, a counselor, or somebody who understands, who asks those questions Ozim was talking about. What are you trying to do? First, tell me in simple language what your business is. We want our lawyers to understand that. So we are getting all our lawyers licensed as in-house lawyer under the ACC certification program for in-house lawyers, because we want them to get the license of IMN certified in-house lawyer. It's a great program that I embraced from the time I became a general counsel, as a way of getting my lawyers from all across the industry. Some were in-house, others were never been in-house before from law firms. As a way of accelerating their training in these skills, I just started sending them to the ACC certification program and maintaining the certification, getting the continuing education program of that certification, as a way of sharpening their skills as business partners, because ultimately that's what will make sure that the clients understand the lawyers and the lawyers understand the clients, and ultimately we get good scores on the surveys we conduct annually. I'll pause there. Sorry.
Excellent. Well, wow. I mean, we need to write an article, I think, with all of you. That's the first thing. But you're sharing just really, really practical solutions with the audience we have here today. So I want to make sure we have time for questions. So before we move on to what I'm going to say is our last question, I actually wanted to, I have a question specifically for Olivier that is sort of tangentially related to the CLO survey, but not directly. But it is rare that we hear about the move from going from chief legal officer to CEO, and a lot of our members have ambition to do that. So Olivier, I thought I'd just let you spend a moment just sharing how you were able to make that transition from top lawyer to top person at a corporation, because I think our audience would find that really interesting, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Tori. Well, I think mine is a combination of factors, and must say a bit of luck as well. One, I think, I'm sure the colleagues will agree with me that the growing influence of legal counsels and general counsels in particular also stems from the fact that our skill is unique in the corporate environment. But when we add to that something that enables us to understand the business beyond our role, it's likely to open doors, for opportunities, at a later stage in our career, because the combination of law and finance, for instance, I've always believed that it's powerful, and there's no, that's I guess it's a no-brainer for everyone. So what I did at some point in my career, so as I said, I'm a corporate lawyer by training. Then I trained I learned about project finance. I spent a couple of years in a development agency, so doing project finance work, still as a lawyer. But then when I moved in-house in corporation, in telecoms in particular, the first couple of years, I felt my role and my influence was limited by the fact that of my limited knowledge in finance. So I took the time to train myself in finance to at least invite myself in certain conversations, because I wasn't invited, so I had to find to create that space, try and create that space for myself. So I trained in finance, and at least within that environment, I was able to take part in certain conversations. Now the luck element is that I knew the ALSF from my days in the development space, and the opportunity arose for a new CEO, because it was an organization that I knew, and I appreciated the role. When the opportunity arose, I sort of deep dive a bit on the mandate, and I actually realized that there was a huge potential for me to try and make to help the organization make a difference. And I must say that my knowledge in finance and accounting sort of helped the conversation with the board, such that it happened. So I think it's to summarize, a combination of I guess there's a say, but I forgot what the exact say, but I think it's a combination of preparation and preparation meets luck. Yeah.
Yeah, but
then the stars align. Yeah.
Exactly. It says Richard Branson. It says when luck meets opportunity. Wait, let me just, because I just looked it up, because luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So wonderful.
Wow.
You got to be prepared. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that,
said it better.
Olivier.
Let me note that down.
Thank you. So I want to move on to our final question, just to make sure we have an opportunity to give our audience to pose questions too. We talked a lot about the skills that you are, how to reduce legal spend, some of the issues that you all are focusing on and how you are managing that. But I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about the most important skills that you believe are important for your legal staff. So our Chief Legal Officer survey commented that communication and leadership was the most important. So I wanted to ask Olivier, starting with you again, what do you believe are the most important skills that are needed to be successful as a CLO?
The first one I think is good communication. In a world that is driven by communication and as I was saying, letting people understand and know the value that you provide. So good communication to me is key. Then there's other values that I would bundle, because to demonstrate leadership, to demonstrate a great sense of ownership and accountability, because as the GC, the trust, and we often say that we trusted partner, but that trust is not given The trust is earned by by us walking the walking the talk. So have excellent ownership of your issues. At times, you might fail or you might miss a point, and that might cause tension with your management. But it's okay. I guess it's part of life, part of the learning process. But ownership to me has always been something that I've been very strong. I felt very strong about in the teams that I've been part of, in the teams that I led. I want my people to be accountable and to be, because if I trust you with a portfolio of of cases or portfolio of matters, please don't blame others for something when it goes wrong, and be assured that I won't take any credit from you for things that go well. That's we can shake hand on that, and be sure that as long as we share that mindset, we'll work together in great confidence. So yes, trust stems from leadership, ownership, and accountability. And the last thing, but I guess I think we moved past that, but I still mentioned that we need to be enablers for business. I still at times hear experienced lawyers who limit their legal advice to no, we can't do that. How does that help anyone? It doesn't help in decision making to say, no, the article X of this regulation, blah blah, says that we can't do that. Well, okay, fine, but please help me, move to the next step and find ways for me to, still achieve what I want to achieve as a business. I think we should always have that as a, as guiding principle, that we're not there to say, of course we're there to to guide our CEO on if he takes a wrong direction or wrong lead, but the added value is in being a business enabler.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Olivier. So since we don't have much time left, though, I thought that we would still launch our poll related to skills. So if you don't mind, Nick, just launching that poll, that would be great. So we could see what our audience has to say about this topic. Okay, give everybody a moment to answer. Okay, Nick, are you ready to close it? Excellent. So communication and listening. Absolutely. Executive presence, leadership, presentation. All the things that they tell you are important when you graduate from law school. Well, this is an amazing session going on today. I want to just turn my attention to the chat. If you have not already put a question in the chat, feel free to. My colleague, Anja Tiegler, has been monitoring the chat. Anja, do we have any questions for our panelists today?
So we had a question on the scorecard. So Abidemi, also if you have an example that you could share with us afterwards to include on the thank you note, I think that might be an amazing resource for everyone. Do you want to say a few words? I know you typed already an answer into the chat, but if you have any additional information, that might be a good moment now.
All right, not much to add to what I've already put on the chat, because I just went to the scorecard and pulled it out. So we measure the litigation in and out. We measure our third-party claims and how we're resolving them from month to month. Legal and regulatory non-compliance. So if there is any non-compliance within any part of the business, legal needs to know and to understand what's driving that, because you would have done awareness, education, and done everything to make sure that people do what they're supposed to do. So we want to know where that has fallen through the cracks and what we needed to do to just quickly mitigate. And then statutory governance compliance, because I have 3 listed entities in my jurisdiction. So that's very important in terms of how we're complying with all the corporate governance requirements, and not just ticking the box, but doing all the right things that we're supposed to do to ensure that those entities are properly run. And then, legal incidents as well. When there's any incidents around legal, maybe there's a product that's been called up by a consumer and things like that. We want to measure and to understand where that is coming from. Things like projects as well. I told you about document management projects as well. We give regular updates on how that is tracking and whether it's effective or not, because there's a lot of investments. So you want to be sure that, the investments are yielding results. Regulatory and legislation advocacy as well. What are the new legislation in the horizon, and how are we making sure that we're part of the industry and putting our voices into that. Brand protection is everything around our intellectual property protection, and whether we've had any incident, somebody who's passed off our product, whether there's any counterfeit that's been recorded, and what have we done about it to close that. And finally is business integrity, which is really about, compliance, the compliance framework, whistleblowing framework, whether we've had incidents and how we've resolved them, and what are the key themes coming out of them, so that we can direct our training and awareness programs, to closing those. So those are the main areas that every month we have to report on that to management.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you, Abidemi. We have one more question. Could the panel please share how they are using AI in their legal teams? That's a good question.
Need to go to that question in some way. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know that we have time for all 4 of you to answer, but please.
Yes.
Would you like to continue? Yeah.
Okay, so I
pass.
Yeah.
I pass on that.
You pass. So AI, I think it's an opportunity rather than a threat. That's what I would say for us legal in-house counsel, and whether you also practice law. And so for me, what we've tried to use it for are things like the e-billing tool that we've talked about, contract management life cycle as well. And in other areas where we have compliance and compliance triggers as well, to make sure that people do what they're supposed to do. So those are the areas that we've used them in, but I'm sure there are many opportunities, whereby we can use AI, and maybe there are other people who've also used and would like to share.
Yeah. Any unique additions to that answer related to AI? Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much, David, Abidemi, Ozim, Olivier. I think that we could have another 3 or 4 sessions with this team and all the great work that you're doing in your corporations and in your legal departments. Thank you so much for being a part of the panel today. Our audience, I hope that you all got a chance to connect with each other, introduce yourself on LinkedIn, save the chat. If you don't know how to save the chat, if you just click on the bottom, right-hand corner, there's like a little 3 dots. You can go ahead and save it so you can connect with these colleagues after the program. But everyone, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and thank you again for